or attention.
But
Yeah.
it is still the mental training paradox, which is the acknowledgement of the fact that there is an importance of the mental game. But
Mhm.
still, athletes and coaches rarely dedicate enough time to engage in mental practices.
Lately, they have started taking up these teachings very seriously because, like in 2011 World Cup, for example, the Indian team around 4 months before the World Cup, they had started working on their mental skills through some South African coach. And even the coaches at the club level, state level, they have started to acknowledge this fact that mental training is very important for any player. And the kind of response that I've got from so many players, I've worked with soccer players and cricket players. So it obviously shows, that people are getting aware.
You think there is a positive change?
Yeah, and definitely 100%.
So, you work with students and have
Yeah.
developed mind related interventions and practices for high school students. So,
Mm-hmm.
so, give us three simple psychological strategies that students or young adopt, given that there is so much to do with the body nowadays that there is little or no time for the mind.
So before I talk about any strategy, I want people to know what the mind is and how it is different from life. So there are basically two aspects when we talk about human existence, which is our mind and body, and second being the life operating within that keeps the mind and body alive. Now, if we look at our mind and body, they are just accumulation of memory. This is point number one regarding the mind. There is conscious, subconscious, unconscious memory. There is DNA memory, genetic memory, cellular memory, heaps and heaps of memory. And this memory controls the thought process, emotional pattern, decision, actions, and therefore life. So point number two for the mind is it recycles this gathered data, which results in compulsive and cyclical thought and emotional pattern. The more you use your mind, the more it recycles this gathered data. The results is negative emotions, things like that. Point number three, very important, the mind is very fickle. It can never be constantly positive or negative. It is the wrong place to look for a lifelong and constant solution. And point number four, it is impossible to control the mind by merely using the mind because the mind is literally, it has no brakes, it only has an accelerator. Whenever we try to use the mind, it takes us on a world tour, and instead of having no thought, we end up having thousand thoughts. So in spite of the presence of these limited memory and cyclical patterns, there is a voice within us that wants to expand in every possible way, be it psychological, spiritual, or materialistic life. It just wants more of everything. So this is the space of life, the second aspect that I was talking about. First aspect is the mind body, second aspect is this life. But the problem is because we mostly only operate through the prism of the mind, this inner force literally loses its power. So instead of using any psychological tools, our only need is to make the mind calm and receptive to this life. Intelligence within expresses itself only when there is no mental resistance. There are no doubts, there is no negativity, only then it expresses. There is a very popular saying that, mind is a wonderful servant but a terrible master. Yeah. So our need is to show the mind its real place as it only exists to serve that life within. It is just a tool of that life. Now the problem is we have made this tool the ultimate. That is why we suffer. There are psychological problems because we have made the servant into a master. So things like positive mindset, calmness will come, without any effort or strategies if we can make the mind more still and receptive to this life within. To create stillness of the mind and to make it more receptive to life, we will be doing nothing with the mind, nothing at all, because, like I said, it only has an accelerator. But instead of focusing on the mind, we will take charge of things that impact our mind. We will never directly approach the mind. So I will suggest three simple things that can be done. One is our eye movement. Second is our body. Third, I'll talk in the end. So now there is a concept called REM sleep, which means rapid eye movement. Meaning of which is that if we see a dream while sleeping, our eyes are actually moving during that process. So this means that our mind and eye movement are connected. That's probably one of the reasons we are instructed to keep our eyes focused on the forehead while we are meditating during our yoga class and all, so as to create stillness within. Now the second thing is, as per yoga, and our mind and body, they are one. They are not separate. Like a person with an anxious mind will never be able to sit still. And I can actually see that people just cannot remain seated and just be there unless they are using their mobile or something. They are totally addicted to mental activity and rushing thing, which isn't good. To rectify these two, there is a very simple exercise. It's called Tratak. In this exercise, basically what people are supposed to do is they are just meant to switch off the lights of their room, sit cross-legged, and just lit this oil lamp. Just look at the flame without any mental effort. Just look at the flame with a still body and still eyes. Gradually, one would experience that his or her mind has started to become more calm and still. And third thing, this is very important, we should accept the position of the mind as a servant, meaning we need to practice selfless action. If we just give it a logical thought also, if you just think while we are asleep, something within us is making sure that we continue to breathe. And if that force leaves, the mind body won't even exist. Even this mind and body are not ours because the breath pattern is controlled by something else. So it would be unfair to say that we have any entitlement over any of the success or materialistic things. If we accept this position of the mind, slowly it will totally begin to fade away. And
Hmm.
as the mind will fade away, our learned limitations too will fade away, along with the resistance. And once resistance goes, life within will bloom.
But don't you think that's easier said than done?
No, I don't think so. There needs to be some awareness. Otherwise, it is probably the easiest thing to do. I can understand. It feels threatening. Suddenly you are like, oh, I'm nothing. I can do nothing. I can be nothing. It feels threatening. I can understand that. But the fact is, it is only a threat to our limitations. We cannot forget that. All these gathered data is a limitation. It put limitations on us. Sounds very difficult to do, but it is just a threat to our limitations. And once the limitations go, we are totally free. We are a full-fledged human being. We can do whatever we want. We can create whatever we want. It is a little tough and it sounds a little, impossible kind of a thing, but this is the way to permanent freedom from the grip of the mind once and for all.
That takes some bit of practice, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
To begin with,